Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Podium Podcast. Once again, I'm Karan.
Hi, I'm Vidya, and today we are joined by a special guest.
Yeah, hi guys, I'm Frederick, and I'm a Mercedes fan, and it's a pleasure to be on the pod.
So, guys, we're going to get into the main topic today, which is listing our top 20 drivers. So, this is the top 20 drivers from 2021 season. So, obviously, the way that they were put in terms of where they came is not what we're going to rank. We're going to rank driver ability, and obviously that can hinder the overall outcome due to the car that they're in. So it's slightly different to what their overall outcome of the season was. So I think the best way to do it is just everyone to read out from 20 to number one, and then we just discuss it. And I guess there's no right or wrong answer, but we're all going to try and justify our point. So I'll just go ahead and start. So 20th, I've got Mazepin. I've then got Joevanatsi, Latifi, Schumacher, Stroll, Sonoda, Raikkonen, Ocon, Norris, Alonzo, Ricciardo, Vettel, Gasly, Russell, Leclerc, Bottas, Perez, Sainz, Hamilton, and then Verstappen at number one. So yeah, I'll just hand over to you guys if you want to give yours, and then we'll kind of discuss our point.
So I've got Mazepin 20th, Raikkonen 19th, Latifi, Schumacher, Sonoda, Joevanatsi, Stroll, Ricciardo, Bottas, Gasly, Perez, Vettel, Ocon, Leclerc, Russell, Norris, Alonzo, Sainz, Hamilton, Verstappen. So yeah, that's my list.
For me, I have gone for 20th Mazepin, Raikkonen, Joevanatsi, Latifi, Schumacher, Sonoda, Lance Stroll, Ricciardo, Vettel, Leclerc, Ocon, and then Russell, Perez, Bottas, Gasly, Alonso, Sainz, Norris, Lewis, and Max.
Nice. So I think it's quite clear that we all said Mazepin 20th,
Yeah.
which is a good starting point. At least we got that one sorted.
Yeah.
And sorry, Vid, did you say Mazepin? Verstappen first as well?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So we all agreed on that. I was surprised that Frederick put Verstappen first as well, above Hamilton. But yeah, well done, Frederick. Well done.
I had to give in because I think Verstappen did deserve the title. But obviously the last race of the season in Abu Dhabi, it's sort of, I don't know, like the FIA decisions.
Yeah.
But we'll get onto that. We'll get onto that later.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with you. That's a fair point. Actually, it's quite a mature way of looking at it, especially as a immature Hamilton fan. Anyway, so I think now that I've kind of said what my top 20 were, now I'm probably going to try and justify it. So we all decided on Mazepin as 20th. So I don't think there's much to discuss there. Would you like to?
Yeah. If I'll go, I think Mazepin he's a rookie driver in a rookie season, and I get that point. But I think with the car that he had, even like saw with his partner Schumacher, I think Schumacher got more out of the car than Mazepin did. And I think there's a lot of controversy coming into the season with Mazepin being in the seat. But I think his just results haven't been good at all. He's recorded the fewest finishes with 16 in the season. And he was the only driver to get out of Q1. So it just shows his season hasn't been the best. And I don't know what your look on him, but I think it is pretty much the same.
For me, I think Mazepin is just another paid driver. I think Haas needed the money, and it was just a win-win situation. They get a driver, and they also get a lot of money. So for me, it's just another paid driver, nothing special at all.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, obviously Haas, they've really downgraded, and they've really fallen and dropped back in terms of their car. But yeah, like you said, I would agree with that. That Schumacher's, definitely the better driver, and we can see that because they're in the same car. Yeah, and you were right about Mazepin just being another paid driver. Unfortunately, there are too many of those people in Formula One today, and it's something that we can't do anything about, but I guess we have to live with. Anyway, so in my 19th spot, I've got Joevanatsi. And obviously, as we know, he's not going to be in Formula One next season. To be honest, it wasn't that clear where I would put the drivers in number 19, 18, and 17. I would say there's all a bit much of a muchness between them. Yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on number 19?
Yeah, I mean, I think 19th is pretty low for Joevanatsi.
Same.
I don't know what Veer thinks, but I actually think he's done better than Raikkonen, and he's finished 11th a lot, and he's got into Q3 I think once, and he's got into Q2 quite a lot of times. So I think Joevanatsi has had a decent season. He's suffered the disappointment of finishing in a less position of 11th more times than any other driver. And it just shows like how close he is to getting into the points. But yeah, that's my take on Joevanatsi.
For 19th position, I put Raikkonen. I think Joevanatsi deserves to be a bit higher. I think if he had the car, he would be easily in Q3. But I think he's been, as Frederick said, I think twice. I think in Monza and in Zandvoort. So I think he's done pretty well. But it's sad. It's a shame that he's going to Formula E with Guan Yu Zhou replacing him.
Yeah, I've put Raikkonen in 19th as well. Just
same.
Clarify that.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I guess McLaren fans are just as biased as Mercedes fans, so
Sure.
I didn't expect anything less. Anyway, in number 18, I've got Latifi. I think, like you said about Mazepin, he's another paid driver. I mean, why is he in the sport when he didn't do well in Formula 2? So I think that's a bit of a strange one. Obviously, he's in a decent car. He's in a Williams, and we've seen Russell, do much better than Latifi, and subsequently he's now going to go to Mercedes. So yeah, to be honest, I put Latifi there for that reason. I think he doesn't deserve to be in the sport, and therefore, Raikkonen might have done worse, but I still think I'd put him in the 17 spot for me. Or sorry, 18.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think 18th is pretty sound for Latifi, because I don't think he's really hit on this season. And I think back end of last season, actually, I think he did pick up his performances. Obviously, the spin in Abu Dhabi wasn't a brilliant look on him, but he actually spent more laps inside the top 3 than Russell, his teammate. But obviously that's probably from red flags stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's a debatable topic whether Latifi should be even in the sport because of the Canadian sponsorships and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, 18th, I put Latifi as well, so I can agree on that.
For me, I put Latifi 17th. About the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, I just want to note how well he coped with the abuse. I don't think the abuse at all, and no one deserves it. But I thought from Hamilton fans, it was not all right to give abuse to Latifi when he did nothing wrong.
All right, so in 17, I put Mick Schumacher. I think Schumacher's had a decent season, to be honest, even in the car that he's in. I think he showed potential also. I don't know what you guys think about him, but I do think he's been all right, especially in the car that he has. And I think next season, the 2022 car, I think he will do well, and hopefully he will progress on.
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually put him in. Oh, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I put him in 17th as well. Obviously, I'm a big Michael Schumacher fan, but yeah, I think obviously he's done much better than his teammate. But I still think he could have had a better first season. Obviously, we know the problems with Haas, trying to be bought by Russians and stuff, and Mazepin's dad. But yeah, I'd still put him in 17th. I still think he could have done better with that car.
I think Mick Schumacher deserves to be in 16th. Relating to your point about Haas going to be better in 2022, they've invested huge amounts of money. So I'm not surprised if I see Mick Schumacher, in the top 10, maybe top 5 next season. You never know what Haas is going to do. But yeah, I put him in 16th position.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And also just a quick stat on him. He's actually 0.6 a second quicker on average than Nikita Mazepin. Better than any driver. He's never been beaten by Mazepin in a regular qualifying session. So that just
that's a good point, actually. Just to say consistency, to be honest, for two drivers of I guess we could say similar seniority because they've kind of been in the sport for the same amount of time. That's quite a consistent lead, I would say. So what did you get then for 17, Veer?
I put Latifi down for 17th.
Okay, so we've kind of all got a similar,
Mm.
apart from me
Yeah.
putting Joevanatsi in.
It's sort of a similar bunch.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's quite similar, which is good. Anyway, I've then got in number 16, I've got Lance Stroll. So again, obviously we know Daddy bought me an F1 team. Yeah, I think that's a bit ridiculous. The fact that his dad, Lawrence Stroll just bought his son an F1 team so he could go motor racing. That's quite a cheap way into Formula One. Yeah, again, a paid driver. He might have a bit of talent, but I don't see him ever doing that well in Formula One. So, yeah, I put him in 16.
Yeah. Well, in my 16, I've actually put Sonoda. I think Sonoda just. I think he's been all right this season, but I think in the car that he has, even though it's his rookie season, I get that. And I think on the back of this season, last season, he's actually done all right. I mean, I think he finished, is it 4th in Abu Dhabi or something like that?
Yeah, that was his top, I think, 4th.
Yeah, I think it was 4th in Abu Dhabi, which is a good end to the season, actually. But I think just silly mistakes really cost him in last season. And I think if he just cuts them out in 2022, I think he'll be a decent driver. But going on to your point, Karen, because you said Stroll, I think Stroll's actually been all right. Obviously, I think he's very average driver, Stroll.
Well, as I said on the last point, in 16th I put Schumacher, but I think Sonoda's a very underrated driver. I think his first season is a rookie season. He's always going to be making mistakes. But on his day, I mean, in Bahrain, P7, and in Abu Dhabi, P4, I think on his day, he could be a really top driver. So I think in the next couple of years, we'll see him progress to the next level.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. That's a fair point.
Yeah.
So yeah, moving on again back to Sonoda because I actually put him in 15th. I think again, to be honest, you put him in 16th, I put him in 15th. I think the same points are valid. There's not much in it, if I'm honest. I think we can skip that unless Veer, you've got something completely different.
No, I've put Sonoda in 15th as well, so the same.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move on. Now, to be honest, my 14th is quite controversial. I put Raikkonen. I think both of you have already done Raikkonen because you think he's lower down. But personally, he's had such a good F1 career overall. I mean, I think overall, considering he's driven for so long, I think one of the best driving careers, I would say. And I think you got to respect that he's in the sport because he enjoys it and because he's got good enough talent. And, we've seen that from his, championships and, in his prime and stuff. And, he's not one of these paid young drivers like Latifi. So yeah, I would have put him in 14th. To be honest, his performance this season may not have been as good as what you've thought, but I think considering his age, I think he's done really well. So yeah, I'd put him in 14th for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think 14's a bit too high for Raikkonen, actually. I think even though it's his last season in F1, I do think last season was a pretty poor performance from him. He had a decent start, actually, but yeah, I mean, it just fizzled out at the end of the last season. I think Veer, I don't know what Veer has to say on him, but I do think Raikkonen he just wasn't performing to the standards I think he could have.
Yeah, I think
see
what
the 2020
you mean.
season was better.
Yeah, but to a certain extent, I mean, his car was rubbish and he had like technical failures and stuff in certain Grand Prix. So
Yeah.
I guess there's a bit of a bad luck, I guess. But yeah, what were you going to say there?
I don't know how you put Raikkonen that high up. He's been shocking this season. I don't know what you were thinking. How would you put him so high up? He's done terrible. He should have retired 2 years ago when he left Ferrari.
At least he didn't pay his way into Formula One. That's what I'm going to say. And if I'm honest, we've got Sonoda. If we look down my list now, we've got Sonoda, inexperienced. Stroll paid his way in, or his dad paid his way in. Schumacher, inexperienced. Latifi paid his way in. Joevanatsi is downgrading to Formula E. So yeah, Mazepin again paid his way in, and inexperience as well. So yeah.
It's because he's a
Anyway.
Ferrari fan.
No. One thing, actually, thank you for reminding me of that. I will just mention something that Ferrari have done. They did a big send off to him, gave him like a nice car model as well, like a really expensive one. I think they're about £20,000, those big F1 scale models. They gave him one of those, they did a full send off, big ceremony for him. And he's not even a Ferrari driver. So I think that says a lot about the brand Ferrari. Yeah, I think they did a nice gesture doing that. And the same is for all former Ferrari drivers. Even if they finish at a different team, they still make an effort, a bit like what they did with Felipe Massa as well. So yeah.
Yeah, okay, Karen, we get it. Ferrari.
Anyway, yeah, they are. And then in 13, I've got Ocon, which I know you guys are going to kill me for saying that. Ocon obviously did well. He won a Grand Prix. Well done to him. Wow. But yeah, I mean, look at the circumstances that he won that in. Was it fair that he won? Probably not, because of what happened. Again, it's a bit of a muchness for these drivers, because it's really hard to know where to put these drivers specifically. You can group them between top drivers, mid, and then bottom. But if I'm honest, yeah, he's got to go somewhere around there. So I decided to put him 13th.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I've actually put Ricciardo in 13th. But on your point, Karen, I think Ocon being 13th is quite low. I think obviously the win in Imola, you said, was a bit of a fluke, but he did drive well, and he has been driving well through the season. He was only 7 points behind Alonso at the season finale, and when you're comparing to a driver like Alonso with that higher status in the sport, I think it's an achievement, and I think the Alpine team will only get better. And I think in 2022 we'll see that.
As a McLaren fan, it hurts to put Ricciardo in 13th, but I think yes. I don't think he's done well compared to Norris. Sorry, but compared to Norris, he's been shocking, absolutely shocking. I mean,
and that's why he won in Monza.
No, the reason why I'll say he won in Monza is because Lando Norris was told to hold position. If he wasn't told to hold position, Lando would have taken that win.
Yeah, but he was in the lead to begin with.
Yeah, but
we can also say that was a fluke like Ocon because of the crash at the start with Hamilton.
Right, fair enough. So, wait, we're talking about Monza.
Oh yeah.
Also, Ocon
slightly different, but yeah.
Ocon won in Hungary, not Imola, by the way, Frederick.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't think it was Imola because we didn't have Imola last year.
Oh yeah, no, sorry, I'm thinking of who am I thinking? Oh yeah, I'm thinking of Ricciardo.
No, we did have
anyway,
Imola last year. Karen,
we didn't.
Yeah, we did. Remember Verstappen won?
Yeah, it was Imola.
Yeah.
Lando with
because they call it
Emilia
Romagna or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay, you made your point. You won't be happy after this. Anyway, number 12, I've got Lando Norris. And
sorry, what? How on is it? Hey, that's it. What is this
justified?
Putting Lando Norris that low?
Let me just tell you. Okay,
at 12, Karen. Is he at 12?
Well, okay. Let me get to one point. Okay. We already discussed about McLaren in the previous episode about how they're not a rookie team. People think they are a rookie. They're like, wow, McLaren's doing so well. The Mercedes junior team, they're doing so well considering. But, how can you say that when, McLaren have got the Mercedes engine? They've got all that time, all that spending money. I already, went into it in the previous episode, and I've explained that McLaren are not a rookie team. They shouldn't be second to Mercedes. Yes, their car might not be as good, but they're still not, the junior team for Mercedes, as much as McLaren fans will want to do that to make them be more, happy with themselves. But I'm sorry, you got to wake up and actually understand that McLaren are no longer a rookie team. Yes, they were when they had Renault engines and stuff, but Mercedes engines, I think, Frederick, you'll agree, are a little bit different to Renault engines. And a little bit different to Honda engines as well. So I think you'll understand that they are very well. They should be a very good team. They should be much better than they are. And for Norris to come where he came, and and for McLaren not to win over Ferrari, I think is interesting. And so therefore, I've decided to put Norris in 12th because I think he's got the car to do better than where he came. So
do you have Ricciardo above Norris?
Do you have Ricciardo
I do.
above?
I do.
Well,
I do.
that's-
Okay, and you know what? I'm proud of saying that.
How do
I'm
you
fine with
even
that.
think of that?
Right.
Sorry.
Lando Norris finished 6th in the overall standings.
Yeah, I think he should have been higher. I think he should have been higher. He should have been above the Ferraris. You don't understand that. He should have been above Sainz because of the better car. I mean, you're trying to tell me you're a Mercedes fan. You have sense, all right? They've got a Mercedes engine, and you're telling me that he should have come behind Sainz, who had his first season in Ferrari, and you will agree with me that Ferrari do have not a championship winning car this year because their engine is off. Well, okay.
That. With all the money they've been getting from F1.
Okay, no. You're trying to change it now. You're trying to change it. It's not about whether they should or shouldn't. It's about McLaren. We're not talking about Ferrari right now. We're saying we know Ferrari is worse than McLaren in terms of the car. There are reasons why Ferrari aren't as good as McLaren at the moment. Like I said, Ferrari have to develop their own engine, so that's less time, less money, less budget they have to spend on the engine and the rest of the car. But don't take it away from what I just said. That's not an excuse.
Right.
6th is frankly not good enough. And if you're going to say that McLaren as a car is worse than Ferrari, then, get off the podcast because, you can't say that. And you're a McLaren fan and I'm a Ferrari fan. And it pains me to say that Ferrari are worse, but I will put my hands up and I'll admit it because, I'm not a dodgy McLaren fan. And I will admit that McLaren are better in terms of their car. And I think that, frankly, to have a driver who's had his first season at Ferrari and he's not that experienced, if we think about it, he hasn't been driving for that long. I get it, neither has Norris, that's fine. But to have his first season at Ferrari, to be in a worse car and to still come better, I don't understand that. And therefore, I think I'm perfectly justified to put him in 12th.
Well, for me,
you can't dispute that. Yeah, exactly. Shut up. You can't dispute that. You can't.
No.
You can't dispute
what I'm going to
that.
say is Lando has had more bad luck, with Belgium being a 2-lap race and him crashing. He should have got pole that day. In Russia, he messed up.
Okay.
What else? In Monza, he should have won that race.
You can say that about all of the drivers. No, but you can say that about all of the drivers, though.
Okay, and also,
really?
you're talking about the Ferrari.
He's been so inconsistent. He's been so inconsistent, but he's still done better than Norris. Explain that.
I mean, I have to disagree on that, Coram, but I think we should move on because we could be here forever.
Okay, so what do you put for 12th then? Let's go on to that.
I've actually put Bottas.
What? Okay, so I put him a bit higher up, but
I put Bottas in 12th because I think he's just been, I don't know, I think he's just been average Bottas in a very good car. I don't know,
but I think that's a bit low. That's below average.
Yeah, maybe it is,
think
but
that's quite low.
I think compared to Lewis,
even
like his overtaking in some of the races, he can't get past Sonoda or. Like,
I know, but you got to bear in mind. Yeah, I know. You got to bear in. But remember that they favour Hamilton, so he's obviously not going to be anywhere near Hamilton. So anyway, Beer.
I agree with Corin on that one. I think Bottas has done a very good job at being a number 2 driver, but that's what Mercedes signed him up to do, to be number 2 to Lewis Hamilton. But if you look at it, Bottas is not on a level of Hamilton or Verstappen. So to put him that low, I think it's a bit unjustified. I think he deserves to be higher. I mean, he's won a race in Turkey, I think it was, and also he's been getting the podiums when he needs to.
Maybe, yeah. But I believe that Bottas had more potential in him to win more races. And I know he did well in the sprint races, actually. He got 7 points from that. But yeah, I think he should have done better.
Fair enough, fair point. I mean, at least you can justify it. So that's fair. So for me, 11th, I've got Alonso. again, yeah, I think he's done well this season. Obviously, I can't remember what race it was, but he got nominated as the driver of the day or something. But yeah, obviously yeah. I remember watching that, and they voted for him, which he definitely deserved. I think he got the most number of overtakes or something in that race, and he certainly did really well considering the Alpine. Yeah, I mean, not much to say about him. I think he deserves to come that place because he's done well.
Yeah, I can agree. Well, I mean, I can and cannot agree. I've put actually Gasly at 11th.
What? Gasly?
Yeah,
No, I
put
understand. I
Gasly at
understand what you
11th.
mean. I understand Gasly. Yeah.
But I think, yeah, going back to Alonso, I think he should be a bit higher.
Yeah,
I
think I should have probably put him higher now thinking about it.
Yeah, but I mean, what was the race that he got a podium in?
It was in Qatar.
I think it was that same race, Qatar. Yeah.
Qatar.
I think for a long time he was in first, I think, and then he dropped back down.
Yeah,
a bit.
I mean,
but he still got a podium.
His ending positions from races have been actually really high, on average. So you can compare that with other drivers in the midfield, and it's probably the best of the rest, to be honest. But yeah, I think Alonso has actually done really well. But yeah, for me, I put 11th as Gasly, just because I think in the 2020 season there was a lot of promise there, but yeah, I just don't think Gasly has performed as well last season. I was pretty disappointed because at the back end of 2020 he was one of my favourite drivers, but yeah, last season he hasn't really performed.
I'll tell you what, who I put 11th later, but just going on about Alonso. I mean, his defending against Hamilton in Hungary, I think that was the only reason why Ocon won that race, because they were going wheel to wheel, and it showed the experience Alonso had with racing. But I think in the future, I think Alpine have a really good side, with Ocon being very new, young, prosperous talent, and Alonso with that experience. Anyway, in 11th, I put Charles Leclerc.
What?
Yeah. He's been shocking this season.
All right. But actually, to be honest, I can't expect anything less of you. You're a McLaren fan. So.
No, it's not just because
I see you.
I mean, P7 in the championship when his teammates P5 challenging for P4, and it's just been lackluster. I mean, I think he only got a podium in Silverstone, and that was it. But just really been terrible this season.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he's not good at science, but yeah, I think that's a little bit low for him. Anyway, I'll come on to a point that you kind of hinted at, which we'll probably do an episode on how F1 has changed or F1 has gotten worse. But yeah, I think that's a good point that, the old drivers, they're still more experienced, and especially Alonso and Raikkonen, they're from, and actually to a certain extent Vettel as well, they're from an era of cars that were much more demanding to drive and a much more competitive time. And I think that is so evident when they have a race that is very damp and wet. A lot of the inexperienced young drivers will slide off because they don't know how to control the car. And the drivers that have actually driven proper F1 cars, without any driver aids or anything, they can actually control the car properly. And the same is when it gets to a difficult track as well. You'll see the newer drivers who do all right because they're in decent cars, they'll drop back, and the old drivers who are experienced with bad cars, they'll start to go up because, I mean, yeah, they're more experienced drivers. And I think maybe in terms of F1, the newer drivers are higher because they've got better fitness and whatever, and they're in better cars. But also, I think in terms of as a driver and driver skill, the older drivers have way more skill. There's no doubt about that because the cars were so much harder to drive. And, like I said, you kind of touched on that a bit. So I just thought I'd finish it off.
Well, just a quick stat on Leclerc.
Yeah,
he took pole twice in Monaco and Baku, and he only led a single lap out of those two races. So, yeah, I mean, it just shows it maybe the experience or just the car. I don't know what held him back, but yeah, he didn't really take the opportunity.
Okay. Yeah. So moving on, I've got Ricciardo in 10th. So yeah, I don't know. To be honest about Ricciardo, like I said about Norris, in fact, this is a point I forgot to mention about Norris, and this makes the argument even more compelling, is that Norris is their number one driver. There's no doubt about that. They've tried to push Norris. He's one of the young drivers that they call, quote unquote, the future of F1. He's like Verstappen, like Russell, like Leclair, like Sainz, that they're trying, those are the future possible championship winners. And I think the fact that Norris still didn't come high, considering he's got better cars than Ferrari, considering that he is the driver that they focus on, I still think that even though Ricciardo did worse than Norris, I still think in terms of as a driver and in terms of his skill, I would put him in 10th. And like I said, the whole point of us doing this top 20 list is so that we kind of we reduce the effects of the car and the team and all of these political views in Formula One, because we know that McLaren favour Norris. So I think that kind of evens it.
Ricardo is a good driver, no doubt about it. I think at Red Bull he did quite well, but it's always been his first season in a new team. He's always going to struggle to get to grips with the new car. But I'm a bit worried for McLaren because 2022 is a completely new car for all the drivers. So I think it'll take time for Ricciardo to actually do well in McLaren. And talking about the driver 1, driver 2 thing in McLaren, them favouring Lando, as you say. I don't think they do that because, for example, in Monza, if they were to favour Lando more than Daniel, they would have given P1 to Lando. So I think
but like you said, but you answered your own question. You're going against yourself.
How?
Because you said that they did it to avoid a crash. You said they did it to avoid a crash. And overall, McLaren will put themselves first, then they'll put their number 1 driver, which is Norris, then they'll put their number 2 driver, which is Ricciardo. So if you look at that, they're obviously they're going to want a 1-2 more than Norris being in first and Ricciardo being in second, if you understand what I mean. That's what they want more than the driver favoritism. They just want that more than that. So I think that's an unfair point, and I don't think you're making any sense because you're going against yourself.
I can get where Viz's coming from though, because I do think Landon Norris has had more pace last season than Ricciardo. I think Ricciardo has been very slow, and obviously it's his rookie season at McLaren. But obviously his experience should be coming through. But I mean, Norris actually let Ricciardo go by Curran in the race where Ricciardo won. And that just shows that the team doesn't really have a favourite, as you might say. But I agree with Veer. I think as most races go, Norris has had the better pace. But in that race where Ricciardo won, I do think it showed that there wasn't really much favouritism in the team.
All right. Okay, fair enough.
So yeah.
Moving on to number 9 then. So I've got Vettel in number 9. I think, like I said, he's an experienced driver. He's been driving for a long time, 4-time World Championship driver. Obviously, it's his first season at Aston Martin, so it's going to be a bit of a dodgy season for him. But also, I think, I don't know what it is. It could be mentally that he's kind of gone off of F1, but I think, after what happened at Ferrari, I think that's really kind of disappointed him because he's been trying to rival Hamilton in terms of like championships and stuff. And I think that really pushed him back. I don't know. I haven't got a lot to say about him. To be honest, I've put him in number 9th based on his previous results in previous years, if I'm honest. But I still think he's got potential for next year. And go forward.
I think with Vettel, just a quick stat on him, he actually outscored Stroll, but finished behind him 10 out of the 17 races. Yeah. So it just showed that Vettel scored more points, but actually when it came to the latter end of some races, he actually dropped off and Stroll beat him in those encounters. But yeah, for me, Vettel, I think he's actually done all right at Aston Martin. I've put him ninth as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think he's got some good performances. Just very, his performance has fluctuated, if you can see what I mean.
Talking about Vettel, I think Vettel's a good driver, 4-time world champion. But when Aston Martin signed him, I already knew at the back of my head he will never ever get to that sort of his peak of his career again. But I think he's been very just quiet. I mean, a couple of points here and there, but there's nothing special about him. But he has outscored his teammate, which is as a paid driver, it's not hard to. But for ninth, I put, it may be a bit controversial, but George Russell.
Sorry, I strongly disagree with that.
Wow, that's yeah.
Yeah.
Hear me out.
I really disagree with that. Are you actually being serious now?
All right.
I mean, to be honest, I can't expect anything more or less because, like I said, you're a McLaren fan, and going by what you've already put, I mean, it's ridiculous anyway. But what are you on? I mean, he's moving to Mercedes, which have the best car on the grid, and you put him ninth.
Yeah, I mean,
when Hamilton had COVID and he took over, he won the race until Mercedes had a problem with their car, and you would put him ninth.
Well, yeah, I mean, his qualifying paces have been outstanding, like at the point of Valtteri Bottas. But I mean, his race paces, if he qualifies in the top 10, yeah, that's good. But what really gives you the points is the race. And I think there's only been, I can count on my hands the amount of times he scored points. Twice? 3 times, and that was in Hungary and Belgium, where it was a red flag and a 2-lap race, and also in Hungary, the turn 1 pile up. So really, I don't think he deserves to be higher than that for me. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty low though. There,
yeah,
9. I mean, I can sort of see where you're coming from. But I do think, obviously, in the 2020 season, I think there was a lot of hope for Russell to do well in the 2021 season. But I think, I don't know, I don't know. Russell didn't really. I think he put in performances, but they weren't as good as what they were before.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, at the back end of last season, the last 2 races of the season, he got out qualified by Latifi, but maybe that's because he was focused on the Mercedes.
Yeah.
Mercedes car season.
I mean, look at how much better he is than Latifi. I mean, he actually deserves to be an F1. I mean, personally,
I put him higher. So.
Yeah, I mean, out of the 3, when did he start? It was 2019, right? Because I remember there were 3 drivers that started together, British drivers, Albon, him, and Norris. And I think out of the 3, he's the best personally. I think he's
I think Russell had a really good rookie season actually.
Yeah.
In the car that he was in.
And I think logically he hasn't become worse as a driver. I think you can only blame the car for that at that point. I don't think he's gotten worse since then personally. But anyway, yes. So number 8, I put Gasly. Pierre Gasly. He's a good driver, so I think he deserves to be an 8. He obviously did really surprisingly well in AlphaTauri. Again, not got much to say about him. The drivers that I've got in 5, 6, 7, and 8, I think are all quite evenly matched. If I'm honest, I didn't really know where to put them.
Yeah, I mean, if we've touched on Gasly before, but if I just quickly read out a stat, he's lost a total of 31 places on the first lap during last season, the most of any driver, an average of 1.4 per race, which is a bit of a drop off from 2020. But yeah, I mean, Gasly's sort of a bit of an average season at best for me, I think.
Okay.
Well, in 8th, I put Bottas. I think he's doing what he's been told by Mercedes to get the podiums here and there, but yeah, it's just nothing special for him.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I gotta be honest. yeah, like I said, when we get to this kind of like upper middle range, it's quite difficult to decide where they will go. So that's fair. Yeah. So now moving on to number 7. So I put Russell in number 7. I think obviously you've got to put aside what he actually got, and you've got to think about in terms of the driver talent, considering he's at a Williams. And if I look at the people that I've put above there, I would say next season he would beat quite a lot of them. So I think it's quite fair that I put him in number 7 because, I think in terms of talent,
Didn't
that's where
Russell
he
get a
deserves to be.
podium
Yeah, he did in Belgium, P2.
in Spa? Yeah, he did. So I think that just shows that even in a Williams, he could get on.
I know.
Obviously,
Where was Latifi?
there were bizarre circumstances. But yeah, I mean, he still got on the podium, and it just shows the quality of driver he is, because I think he's much better than Latifi.
For 7th, I put Sergio Perez. I think he's been a great, and I really emphasize great second driver for Red Bull. I think with Max Verstappen in the team, he was never going to beat Verstappen, but he's been putting in outstanding performances, great team performances as well, like in France, in Abu Dhabi, holding up Hamilton. That was amazing. And also a race win in Baku. So I think 7th is a good position for him.
Yeah, I'll just say I think that's a bit low for him, for Perez, because he's number 2 driver. They've obviously been focusing so much. Think about how much they've been focusing on getting Verstappen the championship. I think considering all of that, he's so underrated. So yeah, no, I wouldn't put him there, but that's your decision. Anyway,
I mean, Perez is just. Wait, Veer, what position did you put him at?
7.
7. Okay, yeah. I mean, that's roughly right. I think Perez. I don't think he did too well. Obviously, he was more of a team player than an individual, which I guess you can say is good, and I guess you can say is bad. But in the car that he's in, I know it's a rookie season for him in the Red Bull. But yeah, I think it's just an average season for Perez and more of a team player than an individual.
Yeah. Because let's not forget what he did for Verstappen at Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
I found that really funny, and I know Frederick would have been crying at that moment, but I found it quite funny.
I was crying.
Yeah, I mean, I know Formula One is technically not a team sport, but it's supposed to be. So I think, in a way, he's done well as a driver because technically it's a team sport. But
yeah, with that, I think F1 is a really different sport than other sports because you want to do well with your team, but at the same time, you want to beat your teammate. So I think it's quite interesting, personally.
Yeah. We'll go into that in a different episodes. We've got a lot of topics to talk about. That's quite a lengthy conversation, if I'm honest. Anyway, moving on. So I already, said the surprise, but in 6th I've got Leclerc. Bit disappointed by his performance, obviously, in Ferrari. Yeah, again, not much to say about him. I kind of think that 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all quite similar. In terms of performance. Yeah, he should have done better. So
I've put Gasly actually in P6. I think he's been doing a great job, ranging from P4 to P7. Also with a podium Baku. For me, it really brings the question of should he be at Red Bull instead? I mean, he got podium, and in 2020 he won the race. So it really brings the question for me, should he replace Perez at Red Bull?
I don't think so.
I mean, we touched on Russell, but yeah, I put him 6, which is a bit higher up than Curran, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, in number 5, I've got Bottas. I know you put him a lot lower, but yeah, I still think I don't know. I'm kind of lost a bit with the drivers here because they're kind of in between. They're kind of in between the top drivers and the middle drivers, and I'm not really sure where to put them.
I know.
I just thought, I just yeah, I don't want
I mean,
to dwell on
let's
it for
move
too
on.
long.
Let's go on to fifth. So I put Norris at fifth. I know, Corin,
my
you put him
God.
very low down.
Oh my God.
But you
Oh
have to
my
say,
God.
come on, Norris. He's
Mate,
been.
he came
I think he's
sixth.
been good.
He came sixth in a McLaren, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
better than Ferrari, and then you put him fifth.
Yeah, I know, but he has actually been good, and they'll back me up on this.
Yeah.
Norris has
Why
been,
would you go to Veer for support?
because he's a McLaren fan. He watches
Exactly.
Sorry, you
Yeah.
can't hide the fact
He's
that
deluded.
you can't hide the fact that Lando's been exceptional this year, and I could see him personally as a contender.
Exceptional.
Yeah,
Sorry,
what,
if he came
4 or
third,
5
I would be
podiums?
okay.
Yeah,
No,
any
that's
F1
not
fan would
exceptional.
see though Norris has been better than Ricardo.
That is not exceptional. I don't. Honestly,
Anyway,
am I missing something?
we're going to be debating this.
Did
forever,
Sainz
so-
not do better than Norris? Am I missing something here? Did
All right.
you watch a different F1 season to me? I don't know.
All right, let's move on.
So in fifth, I put Alonso. I think he's had an
Okay.
amazing season, especially coming back from I think he was in IndyCar, but
Yeah.
P3 in Qatar. Great defending from
No, sorry. Alonso was Le Mans.
Le Mans and IndyCar as well. Yeah, Le Mans and IndyCar. But yeah, I think he's done well, especially from a couple of seasons out. I think with Ocon as a teammate, yet again, I think Alpine will have a really good 2022. But yeah, I think he deserves to be in fifth.
All right, moving on. In number 4, I've got Perez. So, I already explained why I think Perez should be there. I think he's an underrated driver. He's a good driver, and I think he was a good team player. So, yeah, I'd put him fourth.
Yeah, I'd put Alonso in fourth. So I put him quite high up, and I know that's quite high up, but I do think he deserved to be fourth just because of what he's done in the car. And I just think he's been really good last season.
Yeah,
so,
I think that's
yeah.
a little bit too high for my liking. But
Yeah, maybe,
I guess it's
maybe.
your decision.
But I think the podium just capped it off of like what a brilliant driver he has been.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
In fourth, I put Carlos Sainz. I think he's done really well. Beat Leclair in his debut season for Ferrari. I think also with 4 or 5 podiums and solid results, I think he deserves to be in fourth for me.
Yeah, for you, but for no one else, because Sainz should be third. And I know you put Lando Norris in fourth, and I'm just gonna, if I could, I would mute you, but unfortunately, you're the one that started the Zoom call, so I'll have to shut my ears off. Anyway, in third, I've got Sainz. Obviously, debut season at Ferrari, he's got a worse car than Lando Norris, but he still beats him. He still does better. Debut season, I think everyone kind of expected Leclerc to be the number 1 driver in terms of how they favoured him, because Ferrari always have favoured Leclerc. They've really liked him because, like I said, he's the quote future of F1. So I think considering all of that first season, considering he's not got the best car or certainly not as good as McLaren, I think he's done really well, and without a doubt, he should be third. He's not as good as Verstappen, fine. Not as good as Hamilton, fine. But I think, who else could you put in third?
Lando Norris.
No. Okay, how can I not block you?
I mean, I can
Anyway.
agree with Corin. I put Sainz third. He's actually led the most racing laps of. He's completed the most racing laps of any driver. So not led. It's not. Ferrari aren't that good yet, Corin. But yeah, no, he's completed the most racing laps out of any driver, and it just shows, I think, this last season, because I think he's been really good in his rookie season at Ferrari. Better than Leclerc, which no one really expected. So yeah, I think Carlos
certainly. And I mean, that's another good point about Ferrari as well, is that I don't think they favour drivers, because when Sainz signed for Ferrari, everyone was saying, oh, he's going to be number 2, and he quickly came out and said, no, I didn't sign as number 2. I'm going to be working alongside Leclerc. And I think lots of people kind of thought, Ferrari are just saying that to make him sign the deal, and then when he gets there, it'll be different. But it just goes to show that they stick to what they say. And, I think that's been evident. I think they've treated them fairly, but I think Sainz is just a better driver, and that's why he came much higher than Leclerc.
For third position, it has to be the main man, Lando Norris. I mean, what, 4 podiums?
Oh, shut up.
It should have been 2 race wins for him. It should have been with a pole in Russia. Should have been a pole in Belgium if it wasn't red flag about a couple of seconds before he went to En Rouge. I think he's been fighting up there with Hamilton and Verstappen, in Austria, holding Hamilton off for, I think, 15 laps. I think 2022 world champion. That's what I'm going to say.
Shut up. He's not. In number 2, I've put Hamilton. I think everyone would agree with that. I mean, we all put Verstappen as the first, and you can't put him any lower than first. What a close championship it was. I think Verstappen deserved to win, but Hamilton was not far off.
Yeah, I can agree with second. Just though, I don't think it was an easy decision.
I would agree, actually,
because we could be saying something different if the FIA didn't mess it up. But
I don't know. I don't think so. I think, sorry, just to butt in for a second, I still think that Verstappen deserved to win the championship, even though the last minute decision was wrong. I think he had more bad luck with the FIA than Hamilton did. But yeah, I guess that's your opinion. It was quite close, though. I would agree.
Yeah. I mean, I can agree with that. There was a lot of moments actually in the season where, I mean, it could have gone anyway. And a quick stat on Hamilton: he had the best average qualifying position of any driver, 2.14, but penalties meant his average starting position was second best to Verstappen. So it showed that he actually had more penalties than Verstappen. However, Curran, you're saying that the FIA are favouring Hamilton.
Yeah, I think so. I think what they did was they were too harsh on him in the beginning, too harsh on Verstappen in the beginning, and too nice to Hamilton. And then afterwards, they realised that they made a mistake and that Verstappen is actually better. And then they decided to do something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, the back end of last season, I think Hamilton really stepped up the pace. But yeah, Verstappen just at the start of the season I thought was very good. And his pace in the Red Bull was really good and was competing with the Mercedes. I don't know what you think about it, but yeah.
For me, I think talking about the FIA favouring Hamilton or Verstappen, I don't think they favour each of them. But I think what they really wanted ultimately was more of from a business side. I think they wanted more fans to watch it. So, for example, in the last race, Abu Dhabi, I mean, they could have easily just let Hamilton win, but they wanted that sort of thing that would be history for the rest of generations. So I think they wanted more fans to come in and more marketing for Netflix and YouTube and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, Lewis, he's been a great driver. I mean, 7-time world champion. He was the favorite to win, but Max just stepped up his level. I mean, first part of the season, Hamilton never even had a chance with Max. But, I think it was probably Russia where I started to see Hamilton, come back to his form. But he's had exceptional performances, Hamilton. I think his best one would probably be Brazil. 25 place grid penalty, and he still comes to win it.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, yeah, I will say 2 things. Firstly, I think Verstappen and Hamilton, I think, started the season with quite an evenly matched car. Because obviously we saw Mercedes changing the engine later in the season and Hamilton's pace increasing due to not his talent increasing, but the car increasing. So I think, if I'm honest, Verstappen definitely deserves to be first, because if they had an evenly matched car at the beginning, I think, he was dominating. And also it just shows how good a driver he is, considering Perez came much further down in, the similar car. So
just a quick question for Sorry, carry on.
No, go on, Vic. I just want to say that Verstappen actually, I think he deserved it because he actually led the most laps, 652, and
Yeah.
I just think Verstappen did deserve it, to be honest, in the end.
What I would say is, well, for both of you, who do you think had a better car altogether, Red Bull or Mercedes? Because for me, I think Red Bull had the better car at the start, but at the end, Mercedes with the new engine that Hamilton got had a better car at the end. But overall,
I would
really tight.
I would say that to begin with, they had a quite an evenly matched car. As we know, Red Bulls are much more difficult to drive, and they're very loose. They've got a lot of, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but they've got a lot of grip at the front, a lot less grip at the rear, which can make them slide out as we see when it rains. So, but obviously they've got good pace at the same time. So I think overall I think they had an evenly matched car. Obviously, when Mercedes upgraded the engine, I think then at that point Mercedes was ahead. But I think overall, I wouldn't say Red Bull had a better car at the beginning. But what I also will say is I think it's quite interesting that they would upgrade the car and do that many upgrades to it and change the engine right at the end of the season. It obviously shows that it meant a lot to them, because we have seen in many seasons that at the end of the season, especially the big teams and predominantly the big teams like Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull, we always see them kind of backing off a little bit and preparing for next season. And I think the fact that Mercedes didn't do that and they put all their attention towards winning the championship, I think that's quite interesting. And obviously we'll see what happens in 2022.
Who do you think will have the upper hand going into 2022?
I think McLaren is out of the question. I think next episode will be about politics in F1 and McLaren's financial position, and to be honest, the financial position of most F1 teams. I think certainly McLaren, they have got no chance. They haven't got a hope in hell. I think Ferrari obviously do, richest Formula One team. Mercedes obviously, again, super rich F1 team. And I think Red Bull have strangely enough, they spent all that money on this season, but I still think that they'll have a decent car, because you can't go that far wrong with a championship winning car and then, getting a car that's rubbish. So
yeah, I agree with you, Karen, to be honest, except for the McLaren point. I think McLaren will do all right, and I think Veer will back me up on this.
But why is that though? Why is that? Look at McLaren's financial position. I'll just touch on it lightly. As a car brand, McLaren obviously have their supercars and they have their normal cars. Due to their supercars being interesting, I'll just leave it at that. They haven't made a lot of money. Audi are going to buy McLaren supercars in terms of their road cars. Porsche are looking to buy, or that Volkswagen Audi Porsche group are looking to get into F1. They're already in Formula E, or they will be in Formula E. They're getting in. They want to be in F1. Why would they start a new Formula One team when they can just buy McLaren? And McLaren are in a really badly financial position. They've sold their technology center for a massive amount of money, and they're now leasing it, so they don't own it anymore because they don't have the money. Then if you look at their road cars, the new McLaren Artura came out, God, it must have been 6 months ago, and there's been no news on that. People who have put deliveries in don't know what's going to happen, because, it's shocking what has happened to. They are in a really bad financial position at the moment, and I think I'm surprised they're still in F1 at the moment. And we'll go into depth because I've got quite a lot to talk about McLaren. We'll talk about that next episode.
I can tell you have a lot to talk about McLaren.
I know, and I can't wait, because he's going to be so annoyed with me, and I'm going to love it. So it's going to be fun.
Anyway, I think that's a place to wrap out our video today.
Well said.
Thank you for watching or listening, whatever platform we are on. Please make sure to check out the Podium blog, on which should be going live now. Thank you, Frederick, for joining our podcast, and we'll
Thank
see you
you.
soon.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.